Life is pretty good on the North Shore of Sydney for most teenagers. The Bubble, as it is sometimes known, is a safe place to grow up. Schools like Knox and Ravenswood are outstanding schools. The students who are attending here get a first-class education and a head start in life. But what is life like for those kids who aren't so fortunate? The ones who live in poverty. What does the future hold for them? At the beginning of Year 11, a group of Knox and Ravenswood students answered the call to action.
We see this wonderful immersion experience of Cambodia that was for people back in December. We might be inspired to see what we can do to make a difference in this world.
Listening to the stories from students who had just returned from Cambodia, something inside had been stirred. Something had been awoken.
I gained understanding. I gained compassion. I gained perseverance and respect for those who persevere despite their own circumstances.
I want you to think of one side of your family. Just pick any side, either your mum or your dad's side. Think of every single member in that family. The space of 1 year, gone.
The decision to leave the safety of the bubble and travel to the slums of Cambodia to teach English had been made. To live in the poor communities. To become immersed.
Spending 2 weeks away from my family and my friends will be challenging since we're very close family, but I think that it will be good for me to get away, to see how I cope by myself and see how I can do without mum helping me. So yes, I think it will be a bit of a challenge. I think the language barrier between us will be quite difficult to overcome while we're teaching, but I'm sure that we can use our personalities and our just our smiles to make them feel more comfortable and help to teach them. I'm most concerned about the living environments that we're going to be in, like the food that we're going to eat and the getting sick, and yeah, so I'm quite worried about that.
When Emily came home and told me that she was interested in doing the Cambodian immersion, I must admit I was very surprised. I just couldn't imagine Emily participating in a program like that. So part of me was surprised, the other part of me was very
Proud?
I was very proud of her, yeah. Very proud of her and what she wanted to do.
I think that going over there, sending kids actually over there to help out is a way of you actually knowing that your money that you put into it is actually doing something over there. And it's more, you can benefit more from actually acting instead of just giving a check. So I think that's...
Yeah, and you get a lot more out of it.
Yeah.
The world can't be perfect, but steps I can take, being one of the more privileged people in the world, is helping other people who are less privileged than me. The thing I'll miss most about my creature comforts and what I'll be leaving home is probably my music. That's one big thing for me, because I just really love, like, even when I'm working, just listening to music, going there. And I'm sure in Cambodia there'll be lots of noise and lots of rhythmical things, but just really when I can just mellow out and listen to music, I miss that. I think I'm going to cope well spending 2 weeks with people I'm not really friends with in my rack. I think I'm going to do that well because, as you might know, I'm a pretty extroverted person, very confident, get to know people well. And I think if I just do that, relax, sort of relate to people, and they'll just open up to me and we can really get along well.
I think the money we're investing in Ed going away on this immersion tour is well spent, rather than giving money, just making a donation, because in the long term I would like to see Ed as a strong social leader, and he can't do that if we're just signing a cheque and sending that money away. He won't really appreciate the lifestyle other people are living. He will get to see, he'll get to smell, he'll feel the dust, he'll feel all the emotion, he'll be confronted with people who are disabled, who are obviously living in poverty. Will be very emotionally draining and hard on you. But I'm sure you can cope with that, but that's really my only concern for you. I think you'll be fine otherwise.
And the landmines.
And well, yes, if you can just remember not to run off into the landmine field, that'd be good.
Yeah, keep you happy.
Well, I'm a father of 5, retired lawyer, solicitor, and in 2003 my eldest daughter Catherine was completing an international social degree at university, and part of her requirement was to complete 6 months in a developing country. The university arranged for her to do that through an Australian ambassador program run by the Australian government in Cambodia, and she went to work for an organisation called CVCD, Cambodian Volunteers for Community Development. And I became curious when I received emails and phone calls and messages from her for the work she was doing, and she was doing work with ex-prostitutes, AIDS victims, very poor people. So I went over and spent 2 weeks with her in 2003. And so as a result of my experiences, I started up and founded the Mates Abroad Foundation in 2004. The purpose was to help poor people in these developing countries, but my prime aim at the time was to provide assistance in these 5 community schools, these squatter schools in Phnom Penh, to give these young children an education, give them an opportunity to get out of the situation they're in. Yeah, well, it's certainly not a trip. It's not something you can book through your local travel agent. We really take the students behind the scenes. The idea of calling it immersion, because we want to immerse them in the society they're going to, immerse them into the poor communities that they're going to in effect walk in the shoes of a poor person and to connect and be part of their community. Tangibly, we're providing education opportunities for the young who can't afford them. There is education, there are schools in Cambodia, but in an indirect way, students have to pay some sort of money to go each day, and the poor communities can't afford that, or they're too far away. So we're providing an education so that these young ones hopefully can develop that education into an occupation and perhaps improve their life or their children's life. We're also giving them hope. I mean, these are a group of people that have been dumped there by the government. They've been dumped in the outer communities with no market, no accommodation, no water, electricity, all those sort of natural things we take for granted. And I guess we're one of the first groups that's come along and said, hey, can we give you a hand? Can we help?
What is the mop? Is the mop the thing on
6 months before departure, the students and teachers commence their formation program.
That's a better mouth.
This will involve learning about the history and culture of Cambodia and planning their lessons.
The more preparation you put in, the better the teacher you will be.
Roll up your sleeves and face to face is looking right back at
Teaching in the slum communities will be tough.
It's easier.
You've got to tie all this together. How are you going to do that?
It's easier to fake it.
In a lesson plan. You'll have to write out a lesson plan.
The classrooms will be hot and cramped.
So I go
There are very few resources,
free.
and they will have to teach
People there
through a translator.
just like me.
Or Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So,
Is it toast? Okay.
Ed and his partner Bailey are very confident about how their teaching will go.
And then I'd say Ed. We just do that until they can pronounce each of our names, right? And then that's pretty much the basics of that. So that's only a 5-minute exercise.
But will their confidence last when they step into the classroom?
Night, point to them. Night, day, day. Just get them to repeat as much as we can.
All of the students will teach 2 lessons. They receive feedback and guidance on the lessons from their teachers.
Get them to say the word right, and then if they don't pronounce it properly, say it again, day, day, until they get it.
The students are transforming into teachers. Every student has to fundraise at least $800 for Mates Abroad.
Costs the same amount to put them through school for 12 months as it costs you to attend one single period. These kids can't go to school unless Mates Abroad have money to fund the program to send them to school. So that's where we come in.
The kids you're teaching, probably they sleep 6 or 7 to a room, they've got one change of clothing, they've got no toys, no computers, no TV, some have TVs. They have no playing fields, they virtually have nothing. The one thing you can give them besides giving them this money that you're raising is to give them the benefit of your education by teaching them some English, because we can inspire them to learn more English and go on to equip them to get some jobs.
The Australian government had agreed to send a group of refugees to be resettled in Cambodia.
The refugee deal, which we now know is edging closer, is shrouded in secrecy. Cambodia is ready to sign up for a price, but we don't know how much it will cost Australia or how many refugees it involves, where they will live or how they'll survive.
The Immigration Minister Scott Morrison has signed a $40 million agreement with Cambodia to resettle refugees from detention in Nauru. The Minister and his host celebrated the deal in Phnom Penh tonight with a champagne toast. The plan has already been criticised in Australia, and today Cambodians also took to the streets to protest against a plan they say will leave them worse off.
That none of that money, or very little, will filter down to help the poor people. It will be pocketed by corrupt government officials.
But what did the immersion students know about politics and foreign diplomacy?
Yeah, you guys are the representatives. We're going down there on a fact-finding mission, and then we're going to be hopefully bringing a bit of information back with us. What do we need to be mindful of?
Well, you can't disclose too much because they haven't really disclosed a lot about it in the first place.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too controversial as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise it just kicks out.
Yeah.
They travelled all the way to Canberra to find out for themselves.
How are you guys going with your fundraising?
Well, I'm finished. Well, not finished. You're never finished. Yeah.
Nice backtrack.
I've just reached my preliminary goal. I want to say that.
What's that?
$800.
They used the road trip to learn some Khmer.
What's the difference between Soxabai
and Reef Sewer?
Soxabai by itself is very informal.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
So that would be like saying, you okay?
Like, hey man, you right?
Yeah,
You good?
what's up?
You good? Kanom Chumwa Penny.
Good.
There, Soxabai. Oh no, I can nah, I'm good.
He's gone.
Cham Reef Sewer.
Say it again.
Or could, I'm saying it. Or could.
The group was granted an interview with Senator Brett Mason in his private rooms in Parliament House.
Yeah, we're pretty nervous. I mean,
Yeah, we've got a few controversial ones.
okay, confidence is key.
My name is Brett Mason and I'm a Senator for Queensland. I serve on the front bench, you know what that front bench means, as Julie Bishop, you know Julie, the Foreign Minister, as her Parliamentary Secretary. So my job really is to do whatever Julie thinks I should do.
How challenging is it to negotiate between the needs of Australia and the needs of other countries?
It's all about context, really, about what the particular issue is. Often there is, and what you've got to find as a politician or as a diplomat, or even in your own private lives, when you're dealing with your parents, is some common ground, some mutual interest.
Yeah. So in business studies, we've been talking about Transparency Index, and obviously Cambodia, as you know, has a low rating in Transparency Index. How does Australia sort of monitor how well money is
spent?
Yeah,
we do, and evidence of how do I put this, corruption with respect to the expenditure of our foreign aid is very, very slight, very, very slight.
The group was appreciative of Senator Mason's hospitality.
Thank you. I couldn't shut up.
But perhaps left with more questions than answers. The departure for the immersion was only days away. Time to get some rest. Ed is packing light. The students aren't allowed to bring any technology with them, especially phones. Everyone in the Rich family is excited and a little bit nervous.
I did. Let's see. Yeah.
But not everyone is happy about Emily leaving. The groups meet at the airport. Next stop, Cambodia. First stop is the Royal Palace.
Yeah, so we just arrived in Cambodia about 2 hours ago, maybe now, and well, yeah, it was just catching the bus in was pretty eye-opening itself. I mean, immediately had someone come up with my Australian bucket hat and say "G'day, mate," so that sort of gave a good insight into the people. But also, in the same respect to that, you had someone come up and try and sell me sunglasses.
The group get a chance to practice their bartering skills in the markets.
Oh, big?
Yeah, it's pretty much a giant version of Paddy's. Got loads of jewellery, loads of belts, clothes, pretty much everything you can.
I'm not sure how much is official merchandise, but we're off to find Josh and Bailey some watches, so we'll see how long they work for.
The students took in the sights and smells of the Russian market and took advantage of the very cheap prices. But not everyone was making a good first impression with the locals. Ed was very disappointed with some of his behaviour at the markets and reflected on this when he got back to his hotel room.
Just halfway through our adventures in the Russian markets, and just how quickly I sort of changed.